rush in and he steals the bird. How did that connect by Edgeway?
It's the Amazon European Masters, but you know that by now. I am Viperoon, joined by Nymaera. We're moving swiftly towards our 5th game of the day. We've got Ego Rogue taking on Anorthosis Famagusta. I'm sorry about the pronunciation on that one, but Nymaera, last chance saloon, take it off your caster bingo sheet for cliches. Yep. Both these teams need to win here.
They do, because they're both sat at 0 and 2. Their early game stats have looked fairly abysmal. They have struggled to put together coherent game plans, and particularly for Ego Rogue, we are sat here thinking, what the heck happened to this team? Because we were expecting this team pre-playoffs for them to be coming in as maybe first seed, maybe even second seed. They kind of got a bit rolled in that playoffs run, and I mean, we can see some of the plays of them doing some good and some bad. I mean, they had some fun, skirmishy, scrappy plays, but just wasn't enough to piece together a coherent game plan. And that's something that we're going to keep returning to probably during this game and try and benchmark them against each other.
I'm not going to go too deep into the teams that they're playing against in these clips. Of course, they're going to be playing in the final game of the day, so we'll do the Pantera is very good montage then. But it's not really what we expected from these two teams coming into it, especially after day one, where both of them had such a great showing. But yesterday, both teams kind of just seemed to fall apart really, really quickly.
They did, sadly, and now we, of course, we had some questions even about Big in that last game, but there isn't time now to ramp up. There isn't time to develop. This isn't a development league. Yes, you can showcase yourself for greener pastures, but you need to be showing the finished product, and it's not looking particularly great for either of these two, as they were looking to go that step further and hopefully outplay and muscle their way into at least one victory from the first round robin.
And one of these teams is going to manage to do that, but one of them is guaranteed not to. And for both of these regions, for the Ultra League, this is kind of the storyline of their redemption. This region really wants to stand strong. Ego Rogue especially did so well in 2020. 2021, They had to come through play-ins. Play-ins was rough. And now the groups seem to be even rougher. And for Anno, they're the hope and everything for the Greek and Cyprus League. And not much has happened just yet.
No, and potentially luckily for Go Rogue, because of course they haven't really picked up that play-ins buff in the way that we had hoped they might do for us wanting to see the peak of this team. Anno are a team which haven't had a great deal of hope behind them. I was talking to Vasilis the Rock, who is a GLL caster and expert, and they were saying, well, effectively, they're just kind of out-scrap their way in the regional league. And that doesn't really cut it at this point. I believe, actually, this is a team which is player-driven. They have a coach with them, but they've only been with them for a very short term. So I don't even know if they've had time to develop that level of play, that extra level above in terms of the strategic thinking. And we might see that come across again in this draft phase. Who knows?
Well, it's not going to be seen with Zed. He's going to be the first ban. Ego Rogue on the blue side, Anno on the red. One of these teams will grab a win here. One of them is going to go 0-3, and Camille also going to be removed. Sinmivak, not going to be happy to see that one not on the table.
No, and that's the one pick which has been banned in both games against Ego Rogue. Of course, we see this Zed and thinking, oh heck, is that a troll ban? No, mid lane for the GLL team does play that a little bit. Didn't play it throughout the playoffs. I believe they played it a couple of times in their regular season, and hopefully, I mean, they have another pick up their pocket to try and snowball away the game. Because if they are going to bring in this brawling style and try and bring down one of these teams, which we expect so much out of, might need to do it off some of those early plays, like we saw even in that last game with Irelia, right?
Yeah, it's going to be Zinzao, Tristana, Viego, and LeBlanc all being removed. So good to see that. But that leaves Lee Sin as the prime target you've got to imagine. And that's what it's going to be for Lurox. So he's had an on and off E-Master so far.
Yes, I mean, looking at Lurox's stats, 0.7 KDA, 31% kill participation, and yes, these are 2 losses. That certainly is not, that will impact that. It's a small sample size, but you expect the jungler to be 70 to 80% kill participation, and that's not what we've seen out of this jungler. It's not been leading from the front. Often they have been caught a lot as well. The only person which does have significant kill participation is Chres, formerly known as Zenkux, of course, but even then, I think there's a lot left to be desired from that mid laner. So this is, of course, because there's a lot of doom and gloom here, a real redemption arc angle, if we're going to go back towards that tried and trusted storyline for both of these teams and a lot of the players involved.
Dominant has been the shining light from the Greek team, you've got to say. Been pretty decent in the jungle. Yesterday was hopefully just a stumbling block. The Kai'Sa and the Diana both being locked in here. So two pretty interesting champions. And as you said, if it's a player-led team where they're just going to go for that more, we're going to outplay you, that's going to be a good set of champions to do so.
Yeah, and of course, without the Thresh being on the table, we do see the Rakan locked in without really any response to it. And it's Ezreal Rakan, which is probably the best lane for Rakan to really make a mess of more broken team fights, right? Because Ezreal can front to back, absolutely can, but they can also poke out. And having that ultimate to follow up on the huge combo of CC that Rakan can bring out does allow you to finish off someone like a Kai'Sa out of position, a Diana looking for that picture-perfect ult as well. And Dominant had some incredible stats in the regular season. Actually, we're going to talk about that as we get into game, but we have ourselves a Diana with the Yasuo coming out, so it might not be the Zed, and Diana, of course, has been nerfed on this patch, I believe, as it's 11.16, but this is still the early mid-jungle TV2, which we have seen come out to some effect today even.
Now, I'm just going to say it because yesterday I was talking to Trouble during the casts, and I was like, there's a lot going on here. Talk to me about this Anno team. And she was like, sometimes they pick random stuff that doesn't really seem to fit because they pick Malphite where there's a lot of champions they can dodge away from the ultimate. I don't care this game. You've got Yasuo, you've got Dana. Show me Malphite. It's been banned.
Can't say such things. It's been banned.
I appreciate you for ruining my narrative arc. But hey, Set. Just give me Set instead. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Give the Set. I mean, there is literally a player called JaxPlank, and Jax has been banned every single game versus the GLL team so far. It's not been banned just yet. There is the chance that that can come in, and then suddenly you have not just a very strong team fight engage, but you can start having some real side lane pressure too with dual AD solo lanes with some setup either from that Counter-Strike or, of course, the Diana starting, then the extra setup from the Yasuo ult to really start popping off in a wider map setting where you can just brawl across the map.
Right, Jax hasn't been banned. First time we've really seen him get through. It's been the Nautilus that was removed, so we'll have to see if JaxPlank wants to show off on that, or of course the Gangplank, which was open yesterday but not picked up. So it's a case of, are they going to go for that top laner? Are they going to leave it open, assuming that Sinmivak probably not going towards that Jax pick himself and just pick themselves up as support to give themselves the counter? And that's exactly what they're going to do in the Alistar. More knockups. Let's go.
Good stuff. And also it's something which can just punt the Rakan out of a team fight. Say, nope, get out of here. None of that combo stuff. It is an okay lane against something like an Ezreal because at least you're tanky enough to just gonna walk up and have presence on the wave. Kai'Sa Alistar is double CC for the passive, and the Gangplank potentially being taken away from JaxPlank would be an option. It's going to be a bit of a range increase though, but Azir into Diana Yasuo feels very bold, might I say.
It's bold, but I really like to see this champion getting picked up a little bit. It gives some safety if he can't get dove on. We'll have to see what's going to go into the top lane as Pio. Silas is evadable, and with the Alistar on the other side, you can get some pretty dirty stuff going on there, but they're throwing the gauntlet down. The Gangplank has been locked into JaxPlank. Will he go for the other half of his name? No, he's going Irelia.
Okay, so we're going to have another potential Irelia early game pop-off. It is double AD solo lanes. They do have setup, of course, with the knockup from the Yasuo Q and then various things from the Irelia. And then with that AP jungler, I'm very much looking towards Dominant for as the one AP threat to really start popping off. And on the other side, though, Lee Sin does have the early onus, though, the early ability to affect the map. And that's what I'm looking for a Go Rogue, to make sure that the Diana and these solo lanes don't just start getting random kills everywhere.
Is the Kai'Sa going to have enough AP for it to be noticeable in that damage portfolio, or not really?
You don't really see it with the current build. It does apply on your passive, it does apply on your W. It's just not really the same for people to itemize against it at that point. No.
Okay, good to know. Just keeping me up to date with the latest in Kai'Sa news. As someone who plays exclusively top and doesn't leave the top lane in my games, because
that's just every top laner anyway.
Exactly.
So you don't really need to add that bit at the end.
Just don't need to specify because that's all it is. But we've got two teams here that have gone for a couple of picks that we don't get to see too often. This mid lane matchup, Azir versus Yasuo. I'm excited to see how these two players play it because, as you said, both of them could be really important pieces of their team's composition. But I also reckon, as we're moving towards the Rift here, both of them could be targeted out by the jungle and by both supports who might want to roam up mid.
Absolutely. And speaking of those junglers, I know it's a little bit early in for it, but as we're running off in this 5-point start, I really want to talk about Dominant again, because in the summer split for this JLL team, he had some ridiculous numbers. He's not been able to match that at this tournament. I mean, stuff like his damage has gone down, kill participation is really not where we want it to be. But on the Diana, which has been, of course, sparingly played on the new patch, Dominant now has an unparalleled ability to try and get back towards those earlier stats. You can see there's a difference of almost like 200, more like 600-700 rather, DPM between these two splits, or tournaments rather. And we need to see a real step up from this player if this JLL team wants to start competing in this group.
And when you've got a player who's really important for the way that your team likes to play and is a lot of what your team has going for it in the early game, them not firing on all the cylinders can be very, very complicated and very, very tricky for the team as a whole, because if your usual engage, your usual force in the early game isn't there.
Friend Observer, pointing the skins again. Thank you, Friend Observer.
I'm just going to say thank you, production, for giving us Cloud Drake first, so we're not going to have that as Soul.
Good,
Cloud Soul's rubbish.
Although actually, when you have so many melee champions and some like Kai'Sa that ults at the start of the fight, Cloud Soul is actually not that bad at all. There are multiple uses for that. It's not necessarily something you see all sparkling lights like a Infernal Soul, which is of course very, very visible, but you know, occasionally comes across well. But no, you're right, not going to be on the Rift today, and we'll have to see if we actually get ourselves to a Soul, because we did see some longer games earlier, particularly with Movistar Riders having to play towards that win condition, but our last one was not even close to that. Well, I mean, we did get a couple of Dragons, but honestly, the Dragons were not the win condition. The game was over by the time they were really in Soul consideration.
Yeah, it was a very quick game. We saw some quick games yesterday as well, juxtaposed to a couple of the games where teams just didn't really know how to close out. We're starting to see a divide between teams that struggle with that final push, struggle with that final play, versus teams that are like, hey, we're just going to take this team fight and then end, which is exactly what we've been seeing in the last couple. And LFLICKR going to be able to just get a bit of poke down and back away. But looking at these two junglers, they started on opposite sides, already a full clear done by Lee Sin, Diana in the same way, and actually both going to be around the top lane at around the same time.
I mean, this is what happens with a Diana. You know you're not going to do anything on the first clear besides just, if anyone walks into your jungle, maybe you'll walk into the enemy side of the jungle instead to go claim some camps if they've been denied to you. But Diana is not the early game duelist. You're not really someone that's looking to fight early. You just want to get to 2 items, or even just 1, honestly, with a stopwatch, and then start really blowing up some people with the huge base damage you can bring into team fights.
And where that is going to be first, we'll have to wait and see. But Pyrka already moved up towards that mid lane on the Rakan. Dominant just sniffing out Lurox, sees him up on the river and will back away. JoJock has got some time in support and is going to be the first one to respond, but Pyrka also there, and Levi hasn't even made the move yet, so it's going to be a case of just backing away and allowing that Skull Crab to go down, moving bot and grabbing Euro.
And not for the first time, actually, because this happened in Ano's game, their first game, I believe. Dominant just in the right place to respond if anything were to happen. Just putting themselves into the pocket and just saying, all right, okay, you go for a play. I can't start the play off on this kind of champion, but I can respond if you overcommit. I like that they were there. They haven't ended up forfeiting something like a double scuttle, and Golden Toe's getting 2v1'd.
Yeah, gonna be exhausted, but staying at around half health as Levi rocks up just to make sure that everything's okay. And that's going to be an exhaust traded for a heal.
That's the bonus of having fancy feet. Gets out with a really sick couple of jukes there and walks away scot-free. I'd like to take a moment, if it's okay, to talk about some of these early game stats, though, because I know that one of the things that you were talking about. Yeah, you know, oh, no, thank you. You're so gracious today, Will. I'm not used to this, but you're talking about, oh, you know, some of these teams haven't really taken the extra step to kind of crush the early game and to really put the game to the sword. And I think that actually fits both of these teams. We have something like a -2,500 gold deficit for RGO Rogue when they've ended up playing in this group stage, at least in the play-ins. Of course, those stats were much better for them. And of course, Anorthosis, they were down 1.8k gold on average at 15 as well. Both of these teams have struggled at this point, but it does stand to reason that they can't both be behind in the early game. So as it comes down to this must-win game, the last chance saloon, whatever you want to call it, this is hey, Flash under tower, all right.
That's a really clean flash, but it's still going to be first blood, but the play does allow for a 1-for-1 trade. Sinmivak goes down.
Okay, so some minions lost under tower, as I was like, oh, I got some time to talk about early game stuff. Turns out, no, we are actually going to have some early plays, and GLL top laner does get themselves first blood, so the extra 100 gold, losing a couple of minions to the wave as well, the Sinmivak, so it is a net gain for JaxPlank, and hopefully we can see, if you're a JLL fan, that this Irelia can start putting out as much pressure as we saw the mid Irelia do in that last game.
Chres just went on a little walk into the enemy jungle just to see what's going on. Lurox was holding his hand the whole way, but they're going to return to their respective roles, not having really gained all that much except for a couple of wards. But Jojok and Chres have now hit 6 dragons on the menu, and Pyrka once again is just considering if he can make a play, but it doesn't look like it.
And I do like the fact that they are kind of decoupling the Ezreal from the Rakan. It's one of the power points of a Rakan, and also in some ways the Ezreal too, because once you get that level 6 on the Rakan, you know what you're going to do. You don't necessarily need huge amounts of XP on supports. They get a lot of gold through their basic items. You don't need to really sit and farm up your Relic Shield on every wave, and also allows Ezreal to get that solo XP too. You're not under threat of getting 1v1'd at this point of the game anyway, so we can see immediately Pyrka just running around the map and making sure there isn't a numbers advantage wherever the play is most likely to happen, much like Dominant has done for Ano.
He's going top, and actually the stun's not going to land on him, but it'll land onto everyone else. Nice dodge away from JaxPlank, who gets a decent hold of Pyrka, has to stumble away half health and a little bit ashamed, but doesn't die this time, but that's a lot of time wasted as Dragon started up.
That was like 80% of the way to a real YouTube montage play. I was sat there like, that's a lot of damage. That's potentially another Q reset, but JaxPlank understands that if they die there, it is a huge loss. Just take away the survival, that's the real goal. Clears out the wave, and now the player's been failed for Aggro Rogue. Yes, they do burn that flash, they burn the ultimate, but JaxPlank manages to keep themselves in the lane, keep themselves getting all of that gold to themselves.
And with the Dragon going down, it's a little bit of an early advantage, and it's going to be Infernal next up. But it's exciting times because some of these plays individually from Ano have been very, very good this game, which is something that we haven't questioned too much. The ability of the players has never really been in question. It's just been a case of have they been slightly outclassed across the board? And hey, JaxPlank making decent plays. Dominant has shown it a little bit as well. You look bot lane, Golden Toast with the fancy feed in that 2v1. Could this be the game?
And of course, Golden Toast looks like he was one of those old Talon players, because longswords are the key. Longswords are the only thing that this AD carry needs. Maybe get a pickaxe, sure, whatever. But now they've got themselves, I believe, a Q upgrade with all of that AD bought out. And as much as the Rakan can start wandering around, the wave clear coming out the upgraded Q means that, I mean, of course, the Alistar can do just the same. And we have ourselves very decoupled supports. They've been disenfranchised with their notion of bot lane, and they get to go traveling for their troubles.
Just going to be chilling out bot lane. That was a very sad game yesterday where Willite, bless him, he just stayed bot on his own for like, he was 0-0-3 and like 15 farm up where his team was running around murdering people. And it was just a sad statement on marksman.
Hang on, I mean, it is a well-known fact that AD carries are not allowed to have fun in League of Legends. Of course, they don't even get to be at Herald fights, where it seems everyone else is having all the fun. There is the level 6 from Diana, just to use that Q onto the Herald, and that means if you are going to start funneling in, and it's a very big engage tool, you need to be so wary of. It's just an instant engage.
I mean, Kai'Sa moves up to the mid lane just to keep an eye on this Rift Herald, and we'll be able to secure it with the team, and are going to be able to grab this one. Dominant should be able to cut it down, and we'll pick that objective up. So now it's a case of investment banker Diana. Where does she want to put this down?
Good point. I think, obviously, the Irelia is a huge point of concern for a Rogue if they do get ahead. We saw what happens even in the early game if the Gangplank is stood under turret. You get a significant enough lead on this Irelia, Gangplank doesn't get to play the game, much in the way that the Orianna couldn't last time. That is the power of an Irelia that's ahead, and that's kind of why we've seen it banned quite a lot over major regions over the last couple of patches. So I would imagine it's probably going to head up towards topside. Dominant has made their way into the enemy jungle. There are some camps to steal as well. And again, when Yasuo is roaming to the play, it makes it even more hard to respond, because yes, while you do have the damage to kill a Diana on their lonesome, what happens if the Wombo comes in?
These are the questions that have to be answered when it comes to team fighting and when it comes to the later stages of the game, even skirmishing. These questions are going to have to be answered, but Dominant has moved up top to assist JaxPlank. A nice ultimate from Sinmivak will be good enough to clear out the wave and make sure that there's no good Rift Herald opportunity just yet for the Irelia and the Diana to abuse. But it's only a matter of time before that injection comes on in. And with gold being dead even, that could be a pretty big sticking point as we move towards the mid game.
For sure it will be, because again, if you get to a first item blade onto, as we were saying, the Irelia, that is so important. There is only one Gangplank ult to respond to that wave, but it takes a while to build up a wave large enough to crash into to require that kind of attention. So at this point, looks like JaxPlank and Dominant are going to just have to walk away and find another opportunity. But this is kind of one of the problems that I've had with Anorthosis coming into the first couple of games, is that they seem to have the first part of the play figured out. Cool, we're going to go dive top. What happens if the GP ult comes down? I mean, you need to have another response to actually allow that gold to come in. It's all well and good that you've won it, but how do you actually end up pulling, turning the screws and making sure that it really gives you an advantage?
It's a case of a lot of teams come in if they're maybe not so favored in the matches, and it's a tough tournament. The Anorthosis, I think, are going to come in as the underdog more often than not, especially in this group. But often you'll see teams coming in like, we're just going to be reactionary, we're just going to react. And Anorthosis seem to have a little bit of the opposite problem, where they want to make stuff happen, they want to be able to make the plays themselves, but they don't react when the circumstances change.
Yeah, they are the samurai movie, when like the first person that moves ends up losing for some reason, which I can't quite understand. Either way, it's a movie trope. But yes, they've kind of ended up on that side of the logic spectrum of this. And although I will say the counterpoint to that is that Dominant has actually, as we said in the early game, been very aware of the map. And it seems like Dominant has been the one person to really have that facet to their gameplay. We're seeing a small advantage eked out for a JLL team over Aggro Rogue again, as Anorthosis do get some plays, they get themselves some abilities. Okay, dodge out on the combo.
Ooh, Pyrka, he's thinking about trying to get the re-engage down. Charms onto Jojo, but Lurox is going to have to use the kick to get away as well. Chres has turned up, but it's just the Alistar. Nice Ezreal will hit two. Ali, not feeling too healthy, but will get away.
Well, one of these supports has level 6. Dom. Oh, Pyrka.
Oh, no. I don't think Pyrka's getting out of this one at all, but it is the Rakan, the Emperor's Divide. And shows what I know. The support gets out, but we're going to not finish here just yet. The dragon goes down. Golden Toast has the heal to dodge away from the skill shots in the mid lane. Nothing doing. A lot of flashy movement, but no actual kills.
Yeah, this is the rarely seen series of fortunate events where no one dies and nothing evil happens. I mean, this is why you pick Rakan. This is the one pseudo-enchanter which can get out of these very dangerous face check scenarios. W, 2 charges of E, has a flash in there as well, and Pyrka just gets out. The CC is good. That is what, of course, you use that wombo combo from this mid-jungle 2v2 from, but with a little help from their friends, this Rakan has that extra mobility to just keep them safe from the wombo.
And Rogue picked up the Infernal Dragon in that play as well, so that's the victory going over to them. The Rift Tail being dropped into the bot lane alongside Golden Toast is actually going to pick up a plate on his lonesome before this one even arrives. But Aggro Rogue are moving people down to support the defense of this tower. Rakan and Lee Sin already in the bottom half of the jungle should be able to react, and the charge will come off, but I don't think it's going to get much more than that, and that's only 2 plates going over.
So with the one that they took before that, that is still 3 plates worth of gold in Golden Toast's inventory. Probably going to get them towards their mythic. Of course, Ezreal's matched that as well. This is going to be a decent chunk of gold for at least this follow-up AD carry to go in and follow up again on the mid-jungle 2v2's combo. Make sure these team fights go even more in favor of Anorthosis.
Yeah, the Kraken Slayer going to be secured by Golden Toast off the back of that injection, as you said. So should keep your eyes on these 2 marksmen.
Teleport to the Ezreal.
Okay, teleport coming on down. Lucker's in a lot of trouble. There's a teleport in support though. Can Lucker survive long enough? Yes, he can. Pyrka and Chres are both showing up. JaxPlank has to flash away. The Emperor's Divide catches out iLevi, but he is gone unbreakable. Dominant coming through. Another teleport coming through. Lurox also in the neighborhood. The first kill of the fight will go over as Chres is caught. But that is going to be everything until the tower dive could potentially come on through. But there are multiple members of Rogue down here. Looks like it's going to be a 1-0.
It is for now. I mean, I was wondering if there was potentially going to be another committal, because of course the Yasuo ult was there. But what we saw was the next level, because the first part was, okay, cool, Ezreal's out of position. Let's go do something about that. Then actually the Gangplank ult comes into disengage, and we're going to go see this on the stream, on the replay. The E luckily gets the Ezreal out, gets Lucker out in the first part, and then Ezreal gets to keep range, gets away from all this melee damage. All well and good, you get back those minions, but if that ultimate hits, things go very, very badly. very, very quickly. And Gangplank is great at influencing the first part of a play with the ultimate. If they don't teleport down themselves, though, and even if they do, they're not the best at influencing the fights in the same way that every other teleport user in this game is.
Now the second Rift Herald can be started up by Ego Rogue. It's going to be Lurox just grabbing this one, and we've got a slower game on our hands this time around. Things are a little bit tentative. Yes, plays are being made, enough for me to not be too upset, but...
It means we have time to talk, Viperoon. Isn't that wonderful?
It does.
How's your day been?
That's a double-edged sword. It's been okay, yeah.
Good, I'm glad.
Yes,
that's it, that's all I've got. That's my material, so please speed up the game now.
Fight, let's go, Golden Toast.
Cool, right, cool.
In.
He has a flash, he has almost a heal, that seems good enough to me. Of course, anywhere that the Yasuo and Diana are on the map, you start thinking about it, and you think, flash ultimate opportunity, certainly there, of course. With the exhaust down as well, very important to note. The exhaust is probably the most important summoner spell in this game, because even with a flash, there's a good chance you can just get CC'd up before anything happens. Sinmivak, though, stuck under tower, although Lurox is here to potentially bail out.
Ooh, JaxPlank in a decent amount of trouble. I think he's going down. It's the shutdown and the kick to the face. Probably unnecessary, but very amusing.
Yeah, well, with that second death of the game, we can understand, you know, we talked about our samurai movies. Let me introduce you to some kung fu, or rather, deja fu, which is a special martial art where it feels like you've been kicked in the head this way before, in the immortal words of Terry Pratchett. And JaxPlank goes down, and that matchup we said was so important is really not going so well for the GLL team now.
No, it's not. But that being said, gold is still dead even. There's nothing between these two teams just yet. One dragon apiece as well for you dragon watchers out there. It's an ocean dragon that will be spawning onto the rift in 30 seconds. Of course, Baron will be making an appearance a little bit later on as well. But Nymaera, my question for you is, which of these two teams should I be complaining about not having the tempo? Who's meant to be the driving force in this game right now?
Driving force, I mean, it should be the Yasuo Diana, should absolutely be the Irelia, so I am looking at Anorthosis and saying, where's the next big play? Where is the next big engage? Because eventually you're going to get to the point where that GPL is going to be so difficult.
Ooh, it's going to be down here, it's double polarizer, the damage coming up through, but people are charmed up. Dominant will be able to cut down for the first kill, and now the CC is gone. Can they get more condos in the backline? Looking for Sinmivak, trying to dodge away from all of these skill shots thrown in. That's a nice Yasuo ultimate. Lurox gets the kill, but he's going to have to flash over the wall to stay alive. Comes back in, but it's going to be cut down by the Yasuo. Sinmivak following through, trying to take down the swordsman, will be able to do so as Anno are chased away on the other side. It looks good for them, but once again, it ends up being an even trade because JaxPlank just was not involved.
And despite having the early emphasis, it is still a 2 for 2. We would have expected a lot more coming out. At least there is the Irelia left alone on the top tower. That's the extra bonus. But again, it's kind of like the first part of the play. That goes well. I have to see if that can really last beyond that. Do have the Alistar, doesn't have the ult for this play though, looking at that cooldown down there. Actually, they do, that causes them to use in there, just one of the spectator bugs. And though the Kai'Sa does have their first item, it's just not enough really to give them all of the advantages they need. Because Golden Toast, while they make their way into the fight needs to end soon enough before this rogue team, this Zago rogue team, can start turning things around, and alas, it doesn't this time.
And I mean, it was just the fact it was a 4v5 because Anno had really good engages. The Alistar came in hitting up too. The damage from Kai'Sa, yes, it wasn't one shot burst, but it was still decent. With JaxPlank not being there, just turned the fight into an even exchange with the tower on top, obviously. So there is a small advantage for the GLL team, but now they might lose out on that one as the charge coming on through does half damage to JaxPlank. Will clip Lurox, doesn't get anything more from it.
No, because sadly no flash to follow up at that point, and the counter play comes in.
It's just on Levi though, and he's going to be able to stumble away. He's Alistar, but will Lurox follow up? No, he doesn't think he will, as the engage is being considered by Anno. They're not super interested in going too near to towers. Those Chres is putting out so much damage. Ooh, Dominant will survive this time and has to run away.
They do, and actually with that Diana down, who is ironically some of the best wave clear that the Anorthosis have, they have to abandon the outer tower. Now that being down, suddenly that means that all of this aggressive pressuring towards the enemy jungle, which of course this red team was trying to do, trying to catch out the Gangplank, trying to dive these sidelines, is so much harder to do without that staging post, that base camp at the mid-outer tower, enabling that.
Baron's on the map in 20 seconds, which means we're heading towards the 20-minute mark. The gold lead again, it's basically nothing because these two teams are so even in pretty much every aspect of this game. We're going to have to see if Sinmivak is going to be able to stay alive or is going to be able to trade it 1-for-1. He takes a lot of damage though. The burst is coming on through, but Dominant also needs to be careful. Teleports on coming through. Jojo takes a big chunk and Pyrka is there. Does he have the CC to keep him pinned down? He's going to get double knockup, but there's the kill coming through from Gangplank. Azir assisting heavily. And it's going to be a 5-4 scoreline at the end of the game.
And again, this is one of the worries we had again with Anorthosis, where they are scrappy, yes, but it's not necessarily in all the right ways, because as soon as you stop making the first play and you start trying to settle down and go into side lanes, well, maybe due to all that scrapping, you haven't set up the map in the correct way to farm safely, to respond well and quickly. And we can see how AGO is starting to claw their way back in, or I mean, they were still always in it, but continuing to find themselves advantages, which maybe Anorthosis shouldn't be giving them.
They're giving options for the other team to get back into it, and just the game has been so slow. It's been such a game of fine margins that you can't afford to be making small slip-ups that allow for an extra kill to go through, that allow for that extra minion wave to be given over, because that could be insurmountable moving forward, because one of these teams needs to make a breakthrough at some point. AGO, it looks like they might have made the first steps towards that, but it's a case of if they can grab something noticeable, can they turn that pick into something? This time around they couldn't. Next time around, will they be able to?
Well, let's go check out those summoners. Well, there's an exhaust. Did say that was potentially the most important summoner in this game, and it's up. That's important. As you can see once again, as True Stop Barrage is being hammered down that mid lane to stop Golden Toast from trying to wave clear and get that priority with that mid lane tower down. Again, that becomes another secondary factor we should talk about all of the time. And while there has been a second item hit for this Diana, again, it's another pick on the side lane, which Anorthosis are not really prepared to deal with.
I don't know if this is a pick just yet, though. JaxPlank going to be able to skip away, and the rest of the team starting up on the Baron. This is pretty brave. There are members of Anno in the neighborhood, and they're going to start throwing down poke, letting the other team know that they are there. It's going to be now fast. Teleport coming on through. It's 4,500 health, and actually the engage coming on through. Nice ultimate catching on to Sinmivak. He's getting stunned, but he's still alive for a second or two longer. He's actually going to be able to get a kill on the Jojo, and Irelia fight goes down too. JaxPlank chased away on one side of the fight. The rest of the fight is going disastrously for Anno. Knockup, ace, damage coming down as 4 members stand from AGO. They're going to turn and grab the Baron in their stead.
And they target the one person with the Sterax. They catch the Gangplank. Okay, all well and good. But you've lost most of your health on your Yasuo to one barrel, to the Baron. The shield bow is already popped. Gangplank turns around, bops him on the head with just that Sundra auto attack. Gonna go see it again, of course, and it's all well and good looking for the play. It just doesn't come quickly enough. Yes, you have the extra shield coming in from the Gangplank passive, but the wombo doesn't even catch the Ezreal. Ezreal puts down significant damage, and the cannon barrage just cuts off the choke point. And Anorthosis, they kind of fly a bit too close to the sun, and well, we saw what happened to Chres, happens to them.
And it was an excellent play in those chokes where champions like Rakan, champions like Azir are able to do so much work. And these players haven't really been called upon too much. Pyrka moving around the map, trying to get stuff going. Chres has been pretty quiet. But in that play comes up massive just to deny any chance of escape. Baron buff on 4. It isn't on Sinmivak, unfortunately, because he went down during the fight. I believe he doesn't have that buff, but it looks like they're going to be able to try and get this siege down. Nymaera, how much do you want to see Rogue really getting from this one, starting off with this dragon?
Okay, so of course they have themselves the range advantage. They have barrel poke, they have cannon barrage, they have Azir, they have Ezreal. That's excellent. They should be aiming for either two inner towers and then going towards an inhibitor, but they need to make sure that they don't get picked off when they're going in. Actually, this is something that we saw around Season 9 of League of Legends, particularly with G2, revolutionizing the way that you can counter towards a Baron. We lost the era of the 1-3-1 because if you don't push in effectively, you get engaged onto on one of those things, and then you have to reset, you have to play much more defensively after that point. So I want to see them 1-4ing, and then hopefully they can get themselves an inhibitor, get themselves into the base before they have to wait to try and crack it again.
Chres going to be able to crack down this inner tower in the bot lane, and it's simple for the Emperor of Shurima to do just that. Now, Rogue moving across the map, looking for where their next target is. It looks like the mid lane might be the focus. Lurox and LFLICKR are already there. Pyrka and Chres moving on up, and Anno, they're tentative. They don't really want to step towards these towers too closely, because if an engage comes down under one of them, they might not win that fight even if the tower still stands.
And that's one of the other issues, right? Where, yes, you can walk up for an engage, but you're walking up from one direction now, and that is whichever way the base is, away from where Agaroga facing you. JaxPlank is even, well, going for a 1v1, see how that works out.
Flash for ultimate. Gangplank forced to back away, but he's got support behind him, and JaxPlank might just look to try and get the execute going down. No one's really there, but remember, there's Baron-empowered recalls coming through. Is someone going to be able to get that auto, get that ability as JaxPlank moves on through? But there's Lurox, and the damage comes through. He's going to be caught out, and actually, Chres and Pyrka both caught up as well.
So it is some time wasted if you're going to look at the bonuses from that. However, it's another kill going down. It's more gold going over. And actually, I believe, well, I mean, the Baron buff is still on, so it is still effective. And it does actually mean with effectively everyone pulled closer to their base, Agaroga not going to be able to break an inhibitor. They're not going to be able to get themselves that objective. And actually, I mean, that kind of means that even though the gold is still okay, Sinmivak, 3 levels up. Let's see how this one goes. Next challenger approaches.
He's thinking about it. He's diving on through. There's the ult being burnt. Teleport actually coming on through. This one's going to turn from a 1v1 into a full-fledged team fight. Chres running on through, trying to catch out Jojok, who has been left a little bit up creek and no way of getting to safety. And ultimates are burned. Yasuo's are killed. And Lurox looking for the re-engage on the Dominant. Will be able to find it. Decent amount of damage coming through. He kicks back Golden Dust, but he's going to be able to fly right on out. And the Lee Sin actually not able to find anyone particularly, but could he jump through for more? Decides against his Locker, goes a little bit aggressively. They got the minion wave though, and the top tower will be forfeit.
And we see another Lee Sin winning the mind game of the CC, waiting to try and stop the jump in. Doesn't lead to anything much there. However, with the health bars being completely shredded through, Anorthosis not going to be able to defend that tower, and even with the Baron buff running out, it is an inhibitor claimed by the Polish squad.
And now they can back away. That's going to be a decent one to fight over the next dragon. Not going to be soul though, because it's 2 apiece. So even though we are getting towards that soul time, it's going to take both of these teams a decent amount to get there. 1.5 minutes on that objective on the bottom side of the map. Pyrka needs to be careful, but we'll be able to dive away. Now, Anno, what are we doing here? How are they getting back into this game? Are they going to be able to get a pick here? They might be able to, as Lucker forced to dive away. Pyrka is there, though. They've got Sinmivak over the wall, but Levi looking to run the cutoff right, forces the flash out of Ezreal, as the Rakan will have to do the same. Anno burn resources, but don't make the catch.
And there is a point where you actually, it's maybe better to start asking, rather than how do they get back into this, can they get into this? Is this a point where it's just kind of doomed? And you're looking at the gold lead, you're looking at the items being hit by the aggro rogue carries, and you're thinking it is very difficult. Yes, there is a wombo combo available. That certainly helps, but it's not going to help this.
Ooh, Levi was flashed into being kicked in quite an angle. Didn't actually do too much, and Lurox is going to have to walk away. But Dragon up in 55 seconds. You've got to imagine this is going to be the next battleground, because these teams are, as Anno, do you just leave this? Do you just let this go?
It depends on the angle again, because at least with an objective, it is an incentive for your enemies to group up at one place. And if you're going for the big team fights, you're going for the big wombos, even though you are unlikely to get priority to actually establish vision and find those easy routes in, at least they're all in the same place at the same time. And that's the best option they've got right now.
So, let's go. Big team fight around Ocean Dragon, everyone. Start moving down. It doesn't look like they're particularly keen on that line of players. Rogue set up a little bit of vision, have complete control over the river, and should be able to grab this objective on spawn, stealing away everything they can, trying to bleed Anno dry when it comes to gold, comes to buffs, comes to resources. And Chres actually looks like he's going to do it solo as the rest of the team move to defend this Baron.
Okay, so, I mean, they're looking to defend it, but it's not like they can take it, right? They don't have the Kai'Sa in the right area of the map. And Kai'Sa is fairly fast at doing Baron. It's not the same time, it's not really the old Rage Blade Kai'Sa times of doing Baron, but even if you're going to the other side of the map, it's an Azir taking down the objective on the other side. The fastest champion in this game taking down objectives. And that disparity means that you can just take one person to go to the other side of the map to fund Aggro, particularly with the priority that you have, whereas and also you just kind of have to wait, suck it up, and just hope that there is a slip up somewhere. And that's your play pattern from now on. Wait for mistakes. You don't really have much you can do yourself.
And mistakes are haven't been too becoming of Rogue this game. They do have a mistake in them. We've seen that in the past couple. Remember, both of these teams haven't tasted victory in the main stage just yet. But Levi's going to be caught out. He's going to go low, survives on a sliver and gets the shield to get away. Lurox now needs to be careful, but we'll be able to back out. Jojo on the side. Where's the knock? And this could be massive. The damage is coming out of Golden Toast as well, but they haven't got the killer blow. The killer instinct is used as Pyrka will go down eventually, but the Gangplank ultimate is doing so much. Anno still standing in this fight as Golden Toast is going to be taken down by LFKR, but LFKR needs to be super lucky to get away from this one. There are so many members left from Anno. The lifeline has been made. What can they do on the back of it?
What can they do on it? Well, they could maybe have gone towards something like a Baron, but the Ezreal poke is so strong. They got to go onto him.
Yeah, they're going to look for Lucky. He's got no friends in this town right now. Just trying to waste as much time as possible and is doing an exceptional job of doing just that. JaxPlank diving on through. JoJock will as well, but we're going to jump to a replay. How did this happen?
So I think the big point of what happens here is that it's all well and good looking for the first pick, but then Go Rogue kind of lose track of the situation because it's all well and good looking for that pick, thinking, yes, we can finish this off, but you've grouped to do so. That is the one thing you need to do. It's very much like playing against your Malphites in your ARMs or on your rank games or wherever the hell. You don't stack. Everything manages to hit the very important targets. LFKR does get out. That is the one kind of fly in the ointment for this fight, but Anorthosis very happy with this team fight because it seemed like it wasn't presenting itself the entire game.
Anorthosis, right. That's the mistake, right? That's the mistake you talked about. They needed to capitalize on it. They got the fight, but they didn't get anything that really gets them back into the game, except a little bit of gold. Can they do it again?
Can they do it again? Well, that's always going to be the question, isn't it? Because, I mean, in my eyes, I just think, okay, there is no incentive to stack up with that many members as a Go Rogue. You shouldn't let all of these members of Anorthosis go untracked for that long. Will it happen? The opportunity's probably going to arise if we know both of these teams. So then it is actually going to be a test and a benchmark of Go Rogue to see, okay, can you once again put yourself to the test and say, I have identified the losing conditions of this game, because it's actually quite easy sometimes to say, this is how I win the game, right? I mean, a lot of times it's like, yes, get the Irelia ahead against the Gangplank. That's a way that we can win this game. But the next step of saying, actually, how do I compare that to the enemy's win conditions has sometimes escaped both of these teams. Going for the combo again.
Double catch, and there's the ultimate coming out of JoJo, but he doesn't get too much damage down as Levi needs to be careful. The Emperor's Divide will keep members away as the shield this time around doesn't do enough. Chres picks up the first kill as JaxPlank gonna get a big stun, dives on back, but only to his death. It's a shutdown as 3 members fall. Anorthosis, you thought the comeback might be on, but now it's Rogue with 5 members who can look what they want to get next.
Okay, and they have themselves the Azir, they have themselves their AD carry alive. This is going to be a likely ending of the game. There is nothing left in the Wombo tank. No one to clear out these waves. Go Rogue looking to pick up the first win.
They're going to be picking up that inhibitor. They've got the top one if they want to, but they're going to go straight for these Nexus towers. They're trying to get the win. They're trying to break the spirit of the GLL. They break down Toast. They look towards Dominant. He's got nothing. He goes golden, but it just does not matter. The Ultra League side will take down Levi. They'll take down the Nexus. They're the ones who aren't going to go without a fight, as in 33 minutes, they pick up their first win.
It's labored, it's a long time coming, but Go Rogue will not leave the first half of this round robin without a win. And though their earlier games, yes, left a lot to be decided, that doesn't have to matter now. One's on the board, you have to play all 3 teams again, your fate is in your own hands.
And I mean, for Anno there, question marks being raised. They had a couple of good moments, but they also had a couple of big problems. We're going to look at all of it in our post-game breakdown. Don't go anywhere. We're going to do just that after the break.
I gotta go stand check stuff.
How did I connect my injury? Fini! As EU Masters Champions!
I'm just here for the night, and I can't hold it inside. It took one look in your eyes to know I'm in paradise. You're like a star in my mind, no way I can say goodbye. I'm changed forever, let's say it fire now. Fire now.
champions.
Hello and welcome back to the Amazon European Masters. Viperoon and Nymaera coming at you live, and we're going to be taking you through that 5th game of the day. Hey, Aggro Rogue got themselves that win in the end.
Yeah, and I'm still here, crackly as ever, it seems, trying to sort that out during the break. But Aggro Rogue managed to sort out a couple of their issues in-game, and they'll be very happy with that one because, again, it brings them away from Death's Door. It brings them away from that real red line at the bottom of the table where, unfortunately, of course, the GLL representatives have found themselves, and they're going to have to mount a Herculean effort to try and climb back up from that. And, of course, a lot of this started from a couple of overcommittals, a couple of fights that we thought they do have the tools to win this, do an Anorthosis, but they didn't manage to finish off the fight early enough, and that meant that, of course, Aggro Rogue could brawl their way back into it.
It was never really massively disastrous plays that cost them. Like this fight, it was even. It was a 4v5 where they had the man down because Irelia picked up something top, but here, starting his ban was always a little bit brave, and they really paid the price.
They did, but again, you're just kind of saying, yes, there was even trades, but they were even trades, but maybe they should have been winning. That's the problem, because if you're choosing the fights where you are designed to win with your composition and you are not winning them heavily enough, then you haven't chosen the correct fights for your composition. And of course, Aggro Rogue to lap that one up with a plum, and this was the one spark of light on the other side, because there was basically the one opportunity during this game for Anorthosis to try and get one of these stacked up wombo combo fights, because Aggro Rogue thought they had a pick. They were the ones choosing the fight. They swung first and they got battered down.
And again, it was Dominant. We've said this throughout this entire tournament so far. Dominant has been the shining light on this roster. He was the best player for them in the GLL. A couple of analysts have been telling us that, and he's been the best player on their roster in this tournament as well. The problem being is that he hasn't been that level above. This team hasn't been that level above their opposition like they were in their regional league.
Yeah, and of course we brought up even those stats. We're saying this is the player we need to see succeed, and they did to a point. It's just a EUM, Amazon European Masters. This is a level above that. You need to not just have all of your all of your burdens shouldered by one person, and that is some significant damage. That's good damage. It was a good game. It just was not enough to overcome the brute force of the individual players of Aggro Rogue.
And I mean, the Aggro Rogue players, they stepped up where they need to. Chres is someone that I've questioned a little bit throughout this tournament so far and throughout the play-in stages. Definitely had a better performance on that Azir. Ezreal's putting out tons of damage. Gangplank, Sinmivak having a very, very good time on that top lane pick. And now the question is, can they take this tempo through to the next round robin in group stages? Because they need to put in a decent amount of work in order to survive and get themselves to that next level. But we've got a huge matchup in this group to round out group stages, the first round robin, of which we're going to be seeing Misfits Premier take on UCAM. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the bomb. How does that connect by injury?
As EU Masters champions.